Привет, друзья! This is a history of a guy who had been in Odessa to date a woman and who had suffered from many problems. So I will give you all of my commentaries and a lot of anti-scamming tips on the field in Odessa. Let's check it out right now together. First day, this is his history. First day in Odessa, meeting Tatiana. We met up at 11:30 in the morning and was taken to the restaurant where the bill ran to 1,800 hryvnia. So in 2010, because this story happened in this time, it was about $220. And he say, didn't even eat anything, only have 2 cups of tea. So 2 cups of tea, or maybe it's 10 or 20 hryvnia maximum, yeah. So $220 for a restaurant bill, it starts very bad, especially in 2010. This is a big, big money. And it's almost, for some it's 1 month of salary, and for others it's half month, and $440 it's already a good wage in Ukraine. And this time it was, yeah. So the taxi of Tatiana was 250 hryvnia. Translation, almost $30. This is again big. But okay, maybe she lives very far, and okay, let's try to be nice and to accept the fact that she lives very far. In the evening, the translator phoned asking if I wanted to go out with Tatiana, as she was free to meet. I was picked up by Tatiana and her translator, and a friend's car. A guy who acted as a driver and charged a fortune for each and every day. What I'm trying to say is that if Elvira, she is my friend, personal friend in Odessa, would phone for a taxi bringing me from downtown Odessa 30 minutes, drive to her house, the driver would charge me 25, 30 hryvnia, where the translator friend would charge me 60, 70 for 5 or 10 minutes right inside downtown Odessa. So if we do some math here, it seems to be that this guy is charging 7 or 10-fold usual and ordinary taxi at this time. So the bill of the restaurant, the bill of the taxi, 2 red flags. Beep, 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 beep. No? Let's continue. Anyhow, I told I didn't want to go out to the restaurant, so they decided we should go to a Japanese restaurant which had a home cinema installed inside to watch a film there. Was told that one could order drinks and food if one wanted. We stayed there for 2 hours and a half, 3 hours or so, just watching movies, and next to no conversation took place. I having tea and the ladies just ordered drinks and food without consulting me at all. So the fact that okay, it was like a movie on cinema theater, but I would say if a woman is really interested in you, she will try to find a way to chit chat with you a little bit and to ask you some personal question and so on. It seems that didn't happen here. And also notice that they all were ordering, and we will discuss about this again and again later. They asked drinks and food without consulting him. La 4. The bill went up to 600 hryvnia. plus the usual taxi fee of 250 hryvnia for Tatiana to get home. I was brought to my flat and was asked to pay 120 hryvnia so the translator could be brought home as well. My new Tatiana and her translator left together in the same car, and I had already paid Tatiana her taxi back home. So let me do the math. At this time, 2010, 600 hryvnia was approximately $75. I would say maybe the bill was 600 hryvnia. Okay, the usual taxi fee 250 and 120. So we are here $45 approximately. But he had already given some money, so 120. So it looks like 240 and 250. Yeah, that's curious. It seems to live at the exact same distance. So we are about $60. Okay, I will tell you the truth. In this time, I paid $100 for 500 kilometers. Okay, so you can imagine that those women had to spend 2 hours or 3 hours in car, to maybe more, to expense $50. So it's quite worth. It's really worth. Did not phone Tatiana translator all day, as I was kind of uncertain what was going on, as I could easily see a $400 bill flying away on daily basis. That's good. So now this guy start to figure out that something is worth. They followed me later on in the afternoon asking me if we should meet up. I had then been around in the neighborhood, so I had found a reasonable cafe across of my flat where I agreed to meet them. Good. So this guy did the right thing and he made the right move, which is to make a reconnaissance and to find out some easy and nice place, not expensive, for another coffee. And that is exactly what you have to do, is to find a nice restaurant. I would say not so cheap, but not expensive. And because generally speaking, restaurants in Ukraine are not expensive, you can find a reasonable one very easily. So that was a nice move, but I was phoned about half an hour time later to tell me that they were now in the cafe. I went over to the cafe and saw the same driver, dude, parked outside the cafe, and the two ladies having coffee and cake. Was invited to sit down having a tea, ordered one, and managed to have 2 sips of it before being told we were off. This time paying about 100 hryvnia for coffee, tea, and 2 cakes for the ladies. Well, they told me we would be off for a stroll down to Deribaskaya Street, the main street of Odessa, but finally ended up in an Ukrainian restaurant spending 900 hryvnia. Same cause, same effects. He made the right move, but finally they just pick him up at his place to bring him to this main street where there are many scam restaurants that have a special menu for foreigners. In Ukraine, you have 2 menus. You have the Russian-Ukrainian menu, And sometimes you have the English menu. Of course, that is very classic. But now, what you don't maybe know is that some restaurants they have a special menu with special price for foreigners. And so when the scammers are coming, because we have here a trio, the Turp, the driver, and the lady, they give a kickback of money after the guy, foreigner, has paid the bill. So when the bill has been paid, they will come back, or just the guy will not notice, but they will get some money. And 900 griven at this time, it was $110 bill. It's a lot. I would say it's really too much. So how you can overcome of such situation? I would say very simply, you go to this restaurant, you start to look the menu, and if the price start to be high, $20, $25, $30 a meal, now you start to figure out it's expensive. Most of the time, it's bad. If those women have bring you to a real expensive restaurant, because there are some expensive with such price, for a first appointment, I would say it's not fair. It's not fair, and most of the time a lady will not bring you in such expensive restaurant when you finish with a bill of $150, $200. It's too much. So what you just have to do is you look the menu, and now you say, I don't like this place. You look the Turp, and you repeat, I don't like this place. And because this is the bottom of the barrel of the humanity, this type of people, they will try to argue, saying, oh, you look hungry, or you are not happy. Why you are not happy today to be with us, and so on. And you don't be nervous, just calmly repeat, I don't like this place. And you start to stand up and to gather your belongings, and you are ready to leave. At this moment, they will rush to cancel the order because they have already ordered. And as you get out in the street, they will rush to come on the sidewalk. Because now they have zero, okay? Double zero, no money, zero. Not even the Turps don't have any money for a translation. She has still almost translated nothing, but she's waiting minimum 1 hour of translation. And now you start to get the control over this woman. Don't start to argue. Don't start to give some explanation. Don't start to show that you are angry against them. Just leave. Okay. I would also advise to tell some photos of the menu. Okay. Take some photo of this menu, and you can even record the conversation. No, I'm not joking. With such women, they speak in Russian, and they believe that they are absolutely safe to tell everything they want in Russian. So, during the conversation, there are many chances that they are just telling things like bad things, how to scam you more, how they will share the money, what will be the next move. They can even call their husband. Yeah, you don't know, but those women, maybe they are married. They have the agreement of the boyfriend of the husband to do such business. And so during this type of, if you are registering, you can have some proof later if you have a doubt, because you are logical, you are a man, and you want to have some proof. So you just record, this is just my tip, and after you send this to a translator, you pay her and to say, okay, listen this and tell me what is going wrong, and you know what you want to reach. That's a tip you can use. But to save your house, you just calmly say, I don't like this place. And you just stand up and you leave. The order they have asked, generally without your agreement, your consent, it's for them. It's their problem. It's not your problem. It is their problem because they did this on purpose first, and that was totally impolite. We will see this again a little later. As Tatiana was getting a cold and sore throat, the driver did again appeared out of the blue to take us to a pharmacy at 10 in the night. We were taken to a pharmacy that was about half the way to Arcadia Beach. That was 30-40 minutes from Odessa city center to 27 night open pharmacy to buy medicine for Tatiana. So here we are. The same dude again is appearing. So question, do you believe this guy is a taxi? Do you think that he has an official plate? Do you think that he is legally registered as a taxi in the city? No way. And the second question is, Tatiana is probably earning $200, $300, or $400 per month. So each time this guy is out, it's a bill around $30 or $40 of taxi, okay, in average. Do you really believe that a woman who has such wage, each time she go out, she can pay such bill? Do you really think that those type of women with this wage can have a private driver? Because they called him. He is waiting around. During this time, he is not getting other clients. So it's like a private taxi. And only the very well-off and the very rich families, they have their own driver with their own car, and those people are rich by any standard in Ukraine. So it makes no sense, no logic that this woman is getting a special dude taxi driver all around her every time she just moves outside her flight. Makes absolutely no sense. If you have a problem with a taxi, there is like a private car that you see again and again, and you smell that the prices are very high about taxi. You should stop this very quickly. So how to do this? You have two main companies, it's Uklon and Uber. Uber, you know it, and probably you already have downloaded an application on your mobile phone. So you use Uber, you open Uber, and you tell to the woman, okay, I'm a gentleman and I will drop you at your place to get all together. And now it starts to be funny, because this is the last thing they want. And they will try to find a lot of pretexts, and they will try to fight to not let you do such a thing. And so you continue to play the game and saying, okay, put your address here on the application. So it starts to be funny because maybe they both live 1 or 2 kilometers away. And that's it. And they will use some stupid pretext that they need some security and they don't want to go with someone they don't know and so on. So you would say very simply, okay, you don't want to use Uber, it's very safe, and we will use a Lux taxi because you have two categories, so take the upper one, the Lux one. It's not a big deal. And now you say, okay, you don't want to use Uber taxi, but if you want to use your taxi, this is your problem. I will not pay for this. And end of the story. and end of the story, because they don't know that they are scamming you with a stupid taxi. So you do this, and what is the beauty of Uber and a clone? You don't need to speak any Russian. And with the address, you will have automatically the price. And therefore, if they want to put the address, I doubt that they will do this. But at this moment, you just stop this fantasy and this scam. Again, I was to pay 260 hryvnia, and we then returned back to my flat. I was again to pay Tatiana for a transportation, as well as 140 for the driver, having taken us to the pharmacy and the translator back to her home. So I don't understand exactly what is the sum, the amount, because all is not detailed, but it's a minimum 400 hryvnia, maybe 500 or 600, and now it's about $60. It's of course it's insane. Figure I probably better out the market with the agency in Odessa. Did not have much joy, as most of the ladies were not available in Odessa. So I went to Nikolaev to see Ina, with who I had set up a meeting via her agency. Nice meeting, and I was interested in her, and we agreed that we should SMS me her address, but she never gave me her address, so I could send her a gift and some special medical cream of her face, as we agreed to. Obviously, never got any further with that relationship. So many things looks like strange in this part of his story. He had no success to find out a woman in Odessa. So there are two answers. The first one is no woman wanted to meet him because maybe he's not so pretty. And option B, there are a lot of photos on the sites, a lot of photos on the catalog, but maybe they are not so much real lady to match those photos. Understand what I mean? The second thing looks strange is the story of cream. And for me that's very strange, because this woman had a lot of problem with her face. Maybe her skin was damaged, but this is exactly this type of story that Ukrainian women don't want to speak. They don't want to tell you that they have a problem of skin. They are not open. Beauty is very important, especially for first appointment. So I guess that this guy started to push the limit toward a transactional communication, like giving some gift to to set up some communication and relationship. Of course, there is no relationship at this moment. And third is, for me, is the story of SMS and address is quite unquote, because if you get the phone number of the lady, you can ask her address when you want. So maybe we don't know. Okay, maybe we will know more about this later. Anyhow, I went back to Odessa, where my friend Elvira from Odessa was just returning back from a 5-month trip abroad. Spent the remaining night with her family, and Elvira phoned Ina on my behalf to thank her for having taken the time to meet me, and reiterated that she had promised to send me her address. So finally, this guy got his phone number. I don't understand this guy. He's waiting her address to send something, but what exactly? I don't understand. Because if it's about medical cream, he needs to come back in, I don't know where he live, in UK or in USA, to send some UK or US cream. I don't understand this story of cream because I would have preferred to call the woman. I would have preferred to send her a short message saying little word in easy translated word in Russian or Ukrainian to tell her I like it or meeting and so on, to give her some news. Even if she don't speak any or almost no English, doesn't matter. So you keep a contact okay, with her. Elvira then phoned Tatiana and had a long chat with her, as Tatiana was unhappy that I had not contacted a translator for a meeting that day. Also, she was complaining that I had not bought any gift for her and so on. So what a surprise. Tatiana now is angry to meet him. There are several things that are funny. It is probably that the tape knows that this guy tried to meet some other woman in the agency. Maybe she knows that he left for Nikolaev and met another woman. So they start to understand that their victim is making a move, and they try to get back more money here. Elvira told her that she knew me for 4 years and could tell her that I was absolutely a man of my words and probably the most honest person she could find anywhere. She then arranged for us to phone the day after to rearrange for us to meet before I was returning back to United Kingdom. This guy what was important for him is that he was a man of his words and a very honest person. Unfortunately, this type of behavior is you become a prey in Ukraine, to be nice, to be too much nice, to be always nice. This is a problem when you meet some scammer, like we have seen in the beginning of this story, Tatiana and his interpreter and the driver, because this is a trio. I went to Elvira house in the morning with my entire luggage, as I was going to Kiev by train late afternoon to catch my flight back home. So it means that this guy stayed only 4 days in Ukraine. It's quite short. It's quite short, I would say. If you do such a thing, you need to perform well with women and to understand if you attract them or not, and or you have a very trustable go-between, a matchmaker, dating coach, or a trustable marriage agency. And anyway, if you really want to start something serious, a long-term relationship or marriage, you will have to come back maximum 2 months after to meet again this woman and try to confirm if a relationship can be established. Elvira phoned and arranged the meeting, but was told it had to be within 1 hour, as Tatiana, translator, was going on holiday to Turkey and had to catch a flight. So Elvira chose the place and time of the rendezvous, but as I wanted to buy a flower bouquet for Tatiana, we ran slightly late by 5 or 7 minutes. When we arrived at the cafe, Tatiana and her translator had arrived shortly before us. To my surprise, they all have already ordered tea, soft drinks and sushi. In my opinion, and apparently also in Elvira's, which she told me later, that was really an appalling behavior. So in the previous meeting, this man didn't notice this happening behavior. It's because his friends, a Ukrainian woman, Elvira, told him that was bad behavior, that now he started to write this in his text. Of course, this is something that shouldn't happen in Ukraine, and it shows which level of no respect those two women have toward this man. They have no respect. So when you are in a restaurant with a woman and her tap, and one of them is ordering before you, this is an orange flag. If the two women are ordering before you, that is a red flag. And this is disrespect. And so now you own some bad food, especially if you don't know those people. Of course, when I was married, if I was, I don't know, in the toilet and my wife ordered for me and for her, or for her and I come later because I don't know what I want first, it's quite normal, no problem with this. But those people don't know you. Then Elvira arranged everything with regard to language course and explaining about living abroad, and we discussed about plans for a trip to Denmark and United Kingdom. So after an hour, and I was told that's it, Tatiana had to leave as her translator, supposedly Tatiana for an exam, and the translator to catch a flight. So they left, but not without reminding me to pay for translator, who did not work. So I would say the translator was here, so you have to pay her. Even if you come with a friend or with another translator, you own her this money. So no discussion about this. Now, what is very strange for me is this guy had been obviously heavily schemed, and is making some plan in the future with this woman and wanting her to meet her to make a trip in United Kingdom or Denmark. And that's very strange, because you will have a lot of problem with this, because you will need to help her. Even if you buy the ticket online with your credit card, you normally probably should give her some money for the transportation, or she will have the opportunity to ask such money if she wants to scam you more. You understand? This story of trip at this level is a gate for more scam. This is exactly what I want to tell you. You don't know her. Nothing has happened. There is no relationship. He didn't tell us about kissing, about cuddling, about no, nothing. So you can be sure that nothing has happened. And in these circumstances, even if you believe in this story, because this guy is hardly believing to this story with this woman. Okay, let's say that we are human and we make mistake. So, but in this case, I would say it's better to come back to Ukraine and to date again this woman on spot, because you will detect more problems in Ukraine. Tatiana for taxi to Odessa and back to her home, 500 hryvnia. The usual driver dude, 50 hryvnia. Not sure for what, and a pile of sushi on the table. What I don't understand is why all the taxi money, as Tatiana is working every day in Odessa, and at those hours we were meeting was already in Odessa. She was already in Odessa. Also, why 250 hryvnia for taxi home when she was going to an exam in Odessa? The answer is pretty clear. This is a scamming money and nothing else. There is absolutely no reason, no justification, nothing logic. The logic is just that he got scammed, very simply. But that's good that he is asking himself this type of question. With the taxi money, all the time I'm asking myself, I can only think that she is using this method, supplementing an income working at a lawyer office making about $200 and obviously spending much more than she's earning when looking at her clothes and jewelry. We start to have some real answer about who is woman. She earns $200. So now you can figure out that this taxi is a fraud or an entire fraud. And second, looking about her clothes and jewelry. So about this, I will be very conservative. Woman in Ukraine looks like very elegant with, I would say, even with cheap things. And there is a lot of fake, and they can have a Vuitton bag, but this is not a real one. There are many copies, and the same for jewelry, and jewelry is less expensive in Europe. So don't imagine that when a woman is coming and she looks like having very expensive things, that she's rich or a scammer. So this story of jewelry and clothes, except if it's a real brand and very expensive brand, and you can be sure because you are an expert, it could be some copy. The good thing is now this guy is starting to figure out that this something is running behind the scene. I will continue the story because it continues on when I arrived home to United Kingdom. Well, while I was in Odessa, Tatiana was told that I had long ago arranged go to the Dominican Republic with my mother. 7 days after I had returned back from Ukraine, I would be off to the Dominican Republic. Because of this trip, I was desperately trying to resolve things like language courses, trips to Denmark, United Kingdom, Tatiana passport, and visa issues. All the paperwork I have to produce. As Tatiana does not speak English, I had my ex-girlfriend from Kherson, who now lives in Texas, USA, to do the translation. My ex spoke many times and extensively with Tatiana about life abroad, preparation for living abroad, all such things. That's quite strange. First of all, Tatiana doesn't speak any English. Are you sure? Because if you speak English, she doesn't need a translator. So they work like a tandem, even a trio, and pretending not speaking English is a perfect pretext to simply let the scam going on. You need to know that sometimes some TERP are accompanying some other TERP from the agency to some real date with the guy. And they are just falsely pretending to not speak English, but they are fluent in English. Now, what surprised me is 2 Ukrainian women were involved in this story, and they had some communication. They were speaking with this Tatiana, and she was an obvious scam far away, and that make me not comfortable because I cannot understand why they didn't detect anything wrong with this Tatiana, because every Ukrainian people will laugh hard knowing that he spent, I don't remember, but more than $400 just for 3 restaurant bills basically, and probably in taxi more than 200 bucks or maybe more. And for Ukrainian people in 2010, this amount of money, if just dating, just shows that something is going wrong. And so all is not said. We have only one vision, but it makes me uncomfortable to, yes, to be honest. Everything was agreed to during the week before. I was to travel, so all was fine and dandy. When I came back to the United Kingdom for my trip to the Dominican Republic, I obviously phoned Tatiana, having my ex-girlfriend on the phone, to translate. It took some attempts to get hold of Tatiana. By the way, I was given a special mobile number which you, the agency, don't have. And when we finally go through Tatiana, Tatiana told my ex that she met someone else while I was away and that I should not phone her anymore. This is the end of the story. This is the end of the story. So now we know the truth. This woman wanted to stop this circus, this fantasy, this likely fairy tale, because I think she was fed up with this. Now I will play the devil. I will play the devil saying, okay, you know, I will try to be the guy becoming a Ukrainian woman, trying to defend Ukrainian woman if you want. And I would say, okay, it's his fault because, you know, he was not serious. He wanted Nikolaev to date another woman, and she was interested in him, but he showed that he was just a bachelor and trying to chase some other pussy, so she started to be disinterested in him, and yeah, that's it. Okay, but the problem is, from the very scratch, she, her type, and the taxi driver, the fourth taxi driver, the forwarder, all these people were just scamming him. So it's not about him going to Nikolaev that he was not serious. No. As money is involved and they have some benefit from such dating, nothing is genuine. End of the story. Scammer, and you need to forget this, and you need to leave and to run as fast as possible the second that you understand that something is really going wrong. But the problem is it's easy to talk about this in a video, calmly together. The conclusion is this guy had been lucky because the scam stopped after he went back home. She could have asked to him language courses, money for transportation, money for a passport, and you can be pretty sure that he would have given this money and scammed for more. So that was his chance. The fact that he won't, as a Westerner, to complain about the agency and say, oh, this is just my personal opinion, and I want just to tell you that this woman is a scammer, just a Western mentality, mindset, because there are 95%, 99% of chance that the agency is part of the scam, because when you have an interpreter who do such a thing, she probably do this on a daily basis, and it's impossible that on the Middleton that an agency don't know this. So the agency is part of the scam, and why you need to complain to the agency? It doesn't make any sense. And if she has a nice profile, even if she get married, they will not remove her profile because it is a source of income and profit. So this man wanted to believe in a fantasy because from the very beginning, from the scratch, that was a fantasy. All was about a fantasy. This woman was absolutely not attracted to this man. He was just chasing a dream. It was just, that was like a cloud of smoke. And what is surprising is that this man pretended to be experimented. You have written that he had previously a girlfriend from Kherson, but he didn't understand the culture, habits of dating foreigners and Ukrainian women. He had no understanding of scam, and that is the worst in scamming. This is this idea that because you are for Westerners and you have good intention, you are a nice guy, you will not use anyone, you will not betray anyone, that you will be rewarded for your, I would say, gold behavior because you are a nice guy. And so you believe that the world will reward you to be nice. That is the dream of any scammer, to meet guy with such mindset. You need to get out from this mindset. You need to take the control and to take action. Take the control. He was controlling nothing. Okay, he had no control on his dating. That was the conclusion of the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to help the channel to be known. Modern Ukraine Dating. Thank you very much. Пока-пока.